Thank you so very much, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning and good evening, good afternoon, and welcome to another episode on the Life Signatures Radio. This is a show that is daily where we talk about purpose, productivity, and resilience. And so far, we've covered over 1,500 episodes and we're still going strong. Normally, we do this because we deploy a series of messages. Someone asked me once, how do you do this? Where do you get the information that you share with us? Well, one of the ways we share this information is to break it down into bite-sized chunks so that we can be able to circumnavigate. We can be able to encompass a topic fully. And if I'm talking about street smartness, for example, I'll break it down into different topics. And therefore, that's how we get a lot of data coming in. And in the process, we get to have learned deeper. We are in the middle of a process right now where we are talking about 8 pillars that will help raise street smart children. We've already seen some of those pillars and we're continuing to build on to the other ones even as we start winding up this long series. Today we go deeper, so stay tuned.
Welcome to the Life Signatures podcast with Lawrence Namale. Lawrence is a life coach, author, and keynote speaker who loves to tackle different topics on purpose, productivity, and resilience. His mission in life is to awaken all your boundless possibilities available in you. Life Signatures podcast is dedicated to bring to reality every single person who knows that deep down in their gut, there's got to be more to life than this. And now, here is your host, Lawrence Namale.
I've been watching a movie and I've not finished watching that movie. I think the movie is called This Is What God Has Made or something of that nature. And it's about a guy who is in the 1930s in Mississippi. Is it Mississippi? I can't remember. Anyway, in the 1930s, there was this racial segregation in the United States of America. And there's this gifted black guy who becomes an intern to a doctor at Johns Hopkins, as in works with the surgeon, and they have a problem where they are trying to cure babies who die prematurely because of heart conditions. And I've not finished watching the movie, but the long and short of it is I am told this guy managed to become a surgeon without necessarily going through the book smart route. We're talking about book smartness and we're talking about street smartness. And of course, when we talk about one story, one outlier story, there is no critical mass for us to really say that street smart is the way to go. But you see, from the feedback we are getting in life today, we are seeing increasingly that even as many of us are getting diplomas and degrees and higher diplomas and PhDs, it's happening that the way we want these diplomas and degrees and whatever is to apply in life is not necessarily working, because primarily we go into the book smart arena so that we can be able to get jobs, and those jobs are not there. But a street smart person ends up finding something to do with their creativity, with their initiative, with their diligence, with their hard work. Okay, so if for a position that required me to be a book smart, I would, of course, necessarily need to be book smart. The organization that outlined and made it their law that they would never employ anyone who was not book smart and read anyone that does not have a degree or a diploma or a higher diploma or a PhD. If for that position there was an opportunity for someone who is not book smart to get that opportunity just in an outlier way, chances are that the clock will stop, observations will be made, and something might happen. And we invariably have seen that guys who do not have the book smart accolades shining in arenas where it is outlined that this is just for book smart people. I'll put it to you, ladies and gentlemen, that book smartness sometimes is overrated. I can take a kid who I can tutor in mathematics or arithmetics and just basics, and give them computer knowledge and so on, and they can go deeper into that computer knowledge by themselves, and they can study by themselves, and chances are that they are able to deploy the very things that book smart people are doing. It is overrated. Increasingly we are seeing that it is overrated, and I am not throwing the baby out with the bathwater. We need people who are book smart in some aspects, but you find that the ratio of people who necessarily are supposed to be book smart and the people who can do what needs to be done is basically increasing. The street smart people can do anything that probably the book smart people have been hived off to do. It's only in few areas of speciality. Pilot, even pilot, there's a guy who was arrested for flying for I don't know how many years without a license. Not as in he'd never went to a formal school, and even some doctors and so on. But I'm saying you cannot be, even lawyers, by the way. I'll never forget watching a particular series. I can't remember the series exactly, but in this series there was this guy who was a psychologist, a psychoanalyst or something like that, as in I think it was a law thing. It was what is this series where the lady, one of the stars, got married to the royal family? Suits, yes. I think I was watching Suits, and there was a guy who was giving psychological, he's like a psychotherapist of sorts. And guess what? His methods were working until one lawyer discovered that this guy doesn't have a license. He didn't even go to school to study that thing. But it's working. Are you getting what I'm saying? I'm saying that sometimes we have emphasized book smartness where street smartness can work. But in special areas where certifications are needed, you need to be a part of a particular body that is regulating you and so on. Like if you're an accountant, or if you're a surveyor, if you're an architect, if you're a doctor, if you're a lawyer, and so on. Just probably those few, 5, not more than 10 professions. But you cannot tell me that everyone in this world needs to work with those 10 professions. There are millions of others. Okay, millions is just exaggeration. There are many other arenas of life where street smartness can suffice, where somebody does not need to go to school for 20 years and then they come and they start looking for jobs. Just lean into something and be street smart with it. I have been one of those guys who was recruited in an organization that was famed only for recruiting graduates, and I did not have a degree at that moment in time. Only recruiting graduates. And it so happened that they had this project that they were doing, and they outsourced this project to some other organization, and my friend or my mentor was the project manager. So he used his influence to get me an interview, not a job, an interview with that organization, and it was in IT related things, and I got the job. Now, getting the job, I will say it was not because I was good at IT. I'm not saying that I was not good. I'm saying I was not hired because I was good at IT. I was hired because of the auspices of my mentor, who was the project manager. Now the thing is, once a street smart person has been hired and has been given an opportunity, give them a chance and see what they do. From the moment I was hired up to today, my star has shone. My star always shone. It was anyway, it's a long story, but my point is there are very many examples that I can be able to give where people do not necessarily need to be turned away because they are not book smart. There are increasingly very many opportunities for street smart people to add value into this world. And I know I've suspended talking about the areas that I was supposed to talk about. We're talking about the eight fundamental areas or pillars of raising street smart people. But few months down the line, after I was given that job without that book smartness, the organization needed 2 expatriates. And I was one of those who were appointed. Now listen to this very carefully. The project manager or my mentor was not involved in the decision making of sending the expatriates because he was not part of this organization that hired me. But they did hire me as an expatriate without being necessarily book smart. And I remember it is only when we go to that country that the boss calls me aside and says, "How come you don't have a degree?" And I didn't know what to tell them because the story is long and cumbersome. But I can tell you there is a strong case increasingly for street smart people. The society has not necessarily opened up to them yet, but the evidence is all around us that even the book smart people need to be street smart. I'm saying it is not book smart. Book smart is not enough. People need to be street smart in addition to their book smartness. Otherwise, the street smart people who are not book smart will take over, or they are taking over. We're hearing organizations in the Americas or in Europe who are saying we don't necessarily need you to have a degree to work for us. They are identifying that street smartness is taking over. And also, by the way, you've seen very many human resource people trying to scour the job market, trying to find the people of best fit, and they find very many book smart people who are not necessarily street smart, and they've got to start equipping them and training them and coaching them. And then when they do that, the guys are qualified and they go and work for other organizations. It's just a mess in the job market at this moment in time. It is saturated by book smart people who are not street smart. I know I have I have taken a tangent. I was supposed to talk about the 6th pillar of being street smart, and I'm going to talk about that in the episode tomorrow. There are so many plans and budgets that have been made by many stakeholders the world over to make sure that people are book smart. And that's why I have taken some time to consider some aspects of teaching our children to be street smart, because it is being forgotten. And I've been one of those people who have interviewed over 1,000 people in 3 different countries, in Kenya, in Uganda, and in Ghana. And I can tell you this for free: when we have jobs to be done, seldom do we look for the book smart people. In the interviewing panel, we're looking for people who are ready to go, people who can apply themselves. We are not the book smart thing is just an entry level. It just gives you an entry level qualifications, they call it. But when we're interviewing, we're not looking for someone to tell us the theories they learned in school. We want people who can apply themselves. We cherish the street smart so much so that if we got one from a list of very many who have come to the interview and we are just scratching our heads, will we get the right fit that we're looking for? You're looking to hire a team of 40 people, and everyone that comes into the interview room is book smart and they're not street smart. The moment you see a street smart person, you want to hug them as an interviewing panel. But I'm digressing. Tomorrow we're going to look at the 6th pillar of raising street smart children. Until then, bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to Life Signatures Radio. If you enjoyed today's show, subscribe to Life Signatures Radio on iTunes, Stitcher, or visit our website at lifesignatures.libsyn.com. Life Signatures Radio, fresh, clean, and inspiring.